Right, let's do a mic check here. Hey Steve, how you doing? Give me a second here to cue in, make sure that everything is coming along well. I think my volume is probably good like that. Yeah, I think that's stable. Let me go ahead and click this off. And hey, what's up guys? We're doing some Spelljammer work today. The Spelljammer Combat Exploration document that we have published on the DMsGuild. Let me show you some links here real quick. You can drop down here into the description, and the DMsGuild version of this Spelljammer Combat Exploration is right here. You can click on the free preview, and it'll pop open the entire 107-page document here for you guys to take a look at. So you can tag along with me today. You certainly don't have to purchase this. You can just read the entire thing, but if you want to buy it, you'll get over 100 different tokens, maps, ships, creatures, characters, all of the stuff that you need for Light of Zaraxis, along with all the goodies that are in here. And if you can't swing it, then you are certainly welcome to join my Patreon. Which is right here. You can tag in and follow me on Patreon if you just want to toss me a buck and subscribe that way. We'll eventually be making content. Otherwise, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications of when we are live in the future. And let's see. Oh yeah, and then the document that we're going to be using today is the Spelljammer subclasses. So we're going to take the actual document here, and we're doing a read through currently. If we drop down here to the Creatures Menagerie, we're just basically going to go through the rules here about the different creatures that we've created, that were in the Spelljammer's Adventures in Space supplement that Wizards of the Coast published, and just basically checking in to see if there's anything that needs to change for the 2024 rules. That's what we've been updating. So if we go into this document here, if you open this up, it'll be a read-only document for you. But it's got subclasses using these mechanics for all 13 classes that exist currently. If you get to the bottom of the list past the wizard, we then get into the Spelljammer Combat Exploration 5e24 changelog. So this is where we've been documenting all the revisions that we've been making to the system that we need to, when I remove them from this document, I know that they've been completed and updated. We have a number of changes that we need to make, but I'm anticipating this being the last day that we're going to work on this conversion guide. So after today, I think we're good to go. So assuming everything goes right, I'm going to be spending time this weekend and creating, basically doing all the updates to this. So hopefully that means that this weekend, or maybe by Tuesday, we'll have everything updated for the book, and we'll have the new version updated, which again is here on the window here in the Spelljammer Combat Exploration on DMsGuild here. So that is what we are attempting to do, is update all of this to get it current with 2024. So we then have context for the subclasses book that we have here, and then we have also the let's see, that's my own personal campaign that I'm running right now. The Spelljammer's Monsters and Machines. We might change that to Mecha Kaiju. I'm not sure what we're going to go with the name, but this is basically, it takes all the ship mechanics that we've developed for the Spelljammer mechanics, like the 5 foot, 50 foot, 500 foot scale, the 5e combat system that we use for fighter craft and the larger scale vessels. The Mecha Kaiju book basically converts all of this into robots or like humanoid forms. They can pick up massive scale weapons and fight huge sized creatures. So I wanted to get the core document, the core rules for Spelljammer Combat Exploration updated with the new hotness in 5e24, which then provides us context for us to create the subclasses here and publish that as a book we can bundle with it. And then after that, the Mecha Kaiju book that we're working on. And my intent is to playtest this system here on my Discord server. And if you're interested in queuing in with us and having some fun, first off, the Warforged Machines or monsters and whatever we're going to call it. Here's that link there. It's also read only. But here's my Discord community. You're welcome to join there. And I think I've probably rambled on enough, so I don't know how long today's session is going to go. So we're just gonna dive into it and see if there's anything that needs to happen. So here we go in the Creatures Menagerie here on page, reading along in the book, page 73. Many of the creatures detailed in Boo's Astral Menagerie, abbreviated to BAM, are native to wild space. Additional abilities for these creatures to hunt and migrate between worlds are provided below. Unusual natures. Generally, creatures with fly and swim speeds and the unusual nature feature can exist in wild space and gain the following additional features. So, distant senses. Creatures with unusual natures have heightened senses while traveling between worlds in the astral sea. Creatures can sense other creatures size small or larger up to 100,000 miles away. The creature can sense objects 1 mile or larger up to 10 million miles away. The creature can sense objects 100 miles or larger up to 1 billion miles away. Movement. Creatures with fly or swim speeds can hover in wild space in the astral sea and can move or stop as their statistics indicate at the 5-foot scale. Gravity wakes. Creatures that travel in wild space can willingly enter the space of a larger, faster object to ride its gravity plane when encountered. Remaining in a gravity plane this way is considered a light activity for creatures with a flying speed, swimming speed, or abilities such as gliding. A creature can remain in a gravity wake while taking a short rest. Far travel. Wild space creatures can travel the astral sea and between worlds at various... You know what? I think I'm going to... No, we're going to leave that be. That language is good. Far travel. Wild space creatures can travel the astral sea and between worlds at various distances per day as detailed in the following descriptions. When increasing the scale of movement to the 50-foot or larger squares, these creatures can move 5 squares during their turn and can use their action to dash, moving an additional 5 squares. Same as ships. So basically, unusual creatures that exist in wild space can just naturally do what we use Spelljammer helms to do for ships. Creatures risk inertia shock, similar to pilots, when shifting more than 1 magnitude during movement, but they roll with advantage due to their unusual natures. So, Cosmic Horrors. These creatures average 100 feet in size. The following revisions assume the horror occupies a 2x2 square space at the 50-foot scale. Use the stats from BAM with the following considerations. And we didn't just relist the entire stat block from Boo's Astral Menagerie. We're basically just making modifications to Boo's Menagerie for these creatures to operate at the ship scale. So it's assuming that you're going to have access to that material, presumably by having access to it through D&D Beyond, but people can get access to Spelljammer's Adventures in Space in various ways. This wasn't an attempt to replace Spelljammer's Adventures in Space. It was designed to take the mechanics that Wizards of the Coast produced and to deepen them so that they actually make mechanical sense for both combat and exploration using 5e game mechanics that we're already familiar with. So I didn't want to just reprint the entire BAM. I'm just taking creatures that are basically at the 50-foot scale, or creatures that should be able to interact with ships at an increased speed and sizes to be able to present threats to ships as a ship, as an entity, as a single unit that the team is working against these giant monsters, basically fighting kaiju. So these creatures average 100 feet in size. The following revisions assume the horror occupies a 2x2 square space at the 50-foot scale. A cosmic horror can increase the scale of movement to a maximum of 1,000 miles per square. A cosmic horror can travel up to 100 million miles per day between worlds, which means that it can effectively pursue ships with major helms. A cosmic horror can travel up to 100 million miles per day between worlds. A cosmic horror doesn't require air to survive, and in the astral sea, it doesn't require food or drink either. As a bonus action, a cosmic horror can take the disengage action or scuttle a ship. As a reaction, a cosmic horror can pace a moving target or make an opportunity attack if the target moves out of melee reach. Specific actions: multi-attack. The horror makes 1 bite attack and 2 tentacle attacks. And here is the damage translated into siege damage. Melee weapon attack, plus 14 to hit, 50-foot reach. It hits 1 target, 130 damage, or 2d12 times 10 damage. Piercing damage. Tentacle, melee weapons, that's the bite. Tentacle has a 100-foot reach. Deals 1d12 times 10 force damage. The horror has 1d8 plus 1 tentacles. Horror can grapple objects and creatures. Let's see. The horror can grapple objects and creatures up to 500 feet in size with an escape DC of 18. Until the grapple ends, the horror cannot use the tentacle against other targets. See the grappling tentacles in the ship grappling weapons section above for additional details. And then legendary actions. The following revised actions assume the horror occupies a 2x2 space at the 50-foot scale. Otherwise, use the stats from BAM. Crushing tentacles. The horror crushes a creature or object it's grappling. The grappling target must make a DC 22 Constitution saving throw, taking D12 times 10 force damage for each tentacle grappling the target on a failed save, or half as much on a successful one. And then teleportation costs 2 actions. The horror teleports along with any object it's grappling to an unoccupied space it can see within 1 mile of itself. So that's a tentacle horror, and then we have the aesthetic. These creatures are 30 feet in size. The following revisions assumes the aesthetic occupies a 6x6 square space, at the 5-foot scale. Use the stats from BAM with the following considerations. An aesthetic is considered a craft constructed of light material with a 3rd-rank crew that the rigger can issue mental commands to while they remain on the same plane of existence. An aesthetic can otherwise act independently, preferring to remain with its rigger when possible. An aesthetic doesn't require air, food, or water to survive. Spelljamming. The aesthetic can be piloted or commanded by its rigger as a craft with a major spelljamming helm. So 100 million miles maximum speed. Multi-attack. The aesthetic makes 2 tentacle attacks. I should probably actually make an update here to include multi-attack. No, I have it. The horror makes 1 bite attack and 2 tentacle attacks. Yeah, no, it's there. Okay, cool. No need to worry about that. Tentacles, melee weapon attacks, reaches 50 feet. The aesthetic has D4 times 2 tentacles. The aesthetic can grapple objects and creatures up to 50 feet in size and can hold onto larger objects. Escape DC 17. Until the grapple ends, the aesthetic cannot use the tentacles against other targets. See the grappling tentacles in the ship grappling weapons section above for additional again, it's just a grappling tentacle. Kandori. These creatures can grow to 100 feet in size. The following revisions assume the Kandori occupies a 2x2 space at the 50-foot scale. Use the stats from BAM with the following considerations. A Kandori can increase the scale of movement to a maximum of 100 miles per square. A Kandori can travel, which is the speed of a minor helm in combat. A Kandori can travel up to 10 million miles per day between worlds, which is also the typical. Actually, that's the space between. That's 10 times faster than a minor helm, but 10 times slower than a major helm. And Kandori don't require air, food, or drink to survive, but do require light. As a bonus action, Kandori can take the disengage action. As a reaction, a Kandori can pace a moving target. Action tail, melee attack to D4 times 10 bludgeoning damage. That's your Kandori. Then a Lunar Dragon, using the stats from BAM. A Lunar Dragon can increase the scale of movement to a maximum of 1,000 miles per square. A Lunar Dragon can travel up to 100 million miles per day between worlds, which is major spelljamming helm speed. Lunar Dragon doesn't require air to survive, and in the Astral Sea, they don't require food or drink either, but as a bonus action, a Lunar Dragon can take the disengage action or scuttle a ship. As a reaction, a Lunar Dragon can pace a moving target or make an opportunity attack if the target moves out of melee reach. There's our Lunar Dragon. These were super fun to paint. I really enjoyed that. Here's our Megapede over here. Megapede. These creatures can grow up to 150 feet in size. The following revisions assumes the Megapede occupies a 3x3 square space at the 50-foot scale. Use the stats from BAM with the following considerations. So Megapedes are incapable of flight or swimming, but have a climb speed of 150 feet. Megapedes make lairs among asteroids and small moons, where smaller creatures hunt or seek cover. Occasionally, these creatures mistake spelljamming ships as prey or rivals in their territory. It has a bite attack, 150-foot range, one target d4 times 10 piercing damage, plus 4d10 poison damage. Of course, your ships are immune to poison damage, so that's not as big of a problem. We don't have an illustration of a murder comets, but they look kind of stupid, so fuck them. Use the stats from BAM with the following considerations. A murder comet can increase the scale of movement up to 1,000 miles per square, which is the speed of a major helm. 100 million miles per day, also the speed of a major helm. Murdered comets don't require air, food, or drink to survive, and as a bonus action, a murdered comet can take the disengage action. As a reaction, a murdered comet can pace a moving target. Otherwise, there's no other revisions from BAM. Scavers, these were fun to paint. All these were fun to paint. This whole book was so fun to do. Use the stats from BAM with the following considerations. Scavers can increase their scale of movement to a max of 100 miles per square. And 10 miles, so it has the same speed of a Kindori, which is the midpoint, which is like between a major helm and a minor helm. A scaver doesn't require air to survive. If a scaver touches the surface of a spherical gravity object, its flight speed is reduced to 0, and its base speed is reduced to 10 feet. It has the prone condition, and it has the poison condition until it somehow escapes the gravity of the object. Occasionally, these creatures mistake spelljamming ships as prey or rivals in their territory. As a bonus action, it can disengage or sprint, detailed below. As a reaction, can pace or make opportunity attacks. So sprint. As a bonus action, the Scaver can sprint for up to 1 minute, increasing its maximum scale of movement to 1,000 square. Oh, that's a weird line. This is page 76. Thank you, Timely Timer. It's my 20-minute timer. Page 76, left column, sprint. There. A Scaver regains use of sprint after it finishes a short or long rest. Space Guppies. This is useful for closing distance. You can pace the speed and pursue a spelljamming ship because Scavers might not recognize that your ship isn't a Kindori. Scavers like to eat Kindori. If they can catch a Kindori in that 1 minute, the Kindori won't be able to effectively get away because the Scaver has the same general speed of a Kindori, but has the ability to sprint to close distance when necessary. Space Guppy. And then they can ride the gravity plane of the Kindori, and until the Kindori can shake them off and get them out of its gravity plane by disengaging, it's basically stuck with these Scavers hunting and basically chewing and taking bites out of the Kindori until it can get away. Space Guppies. Space Guppies is a small swimming creature with the unusual nature feature. Use the stats from BAM with the following considerations. The Space Guppy can increase the scale of movement to a maximum of 500 feet per square. Space Guppy can travel up to 10,000 miles per day between worlds. Space Guppies can create an air envelope for themselves and a tiny rider indefinitely. And if a Space Guppy touches the surface of a spherical gravity object, like a planet, a moon, a large asteroid, its flight speed is reduced to 0. Its base move speed is reduced to 10 feet, and it has the prone condition, and it has the poison condition until it somehow escapes the gravity of the object. So basically, if these creatures enter spherical, like normal gravity in a world, and they can still fly and navigate around like ships can in the atmosphere, but as soon as they touch the ground, just like spelljamming ships, when you touch something, you automatically orient your gravity to that planet. And since these creatures don't like generate their own spell jamming field, they drop to the ground or are basically stuck on the ground, flopping around, and they're poisoned because they're like mildly suffocating until they can somehow get off the planet. But they can't do that themselves. So once they touch grass, they are stuck there. Same as the Scavers. Good strategy to get rid of Scavers is to trick them into spherical gravity, get them dropped. And then we just have unusual beasts in general. Boo's Astral Menagerie mentions that any flying or swimming beast can have a counterpart in wild space by adding the unusual nature. Spelljammer Combat and Exploration further expands this option. So use the base stats provided in the source material for the beasts with the following considerations. An unusual beast can increase the scale of movement to a maximum of 500 feet per square. An unusual beast can travel up to 10,000 miles per day between worlds, and an unusual beast doesn't need to breathe to survive. These unusual creatures can traverse wild space, but require food, so they're limited to ecologies they can reach in their immediate environment. For example, a space hermit crab is a creature with a challenge rating 0 that possesses the unusual nature feature, living off space urchin and space barnacles, growing among asteroids, derelicts, and crevasses of Earth and Moon's lacking atmosphere. Mounts. Unusual creatures such as wild space dolphins, pegasi, and scavers are examples of creatures that can be controlled as mounts similar to horses. Creatures that can travel between worlds do so while mounted. Creatures can tow ships. So creatures such as Kandori or Scaver can be trained like a team of horses drawing a wagon or controlled by magic to tow ships without spelljamming helms. An object can be towed by a number of creatures that occupy the same size space. For example, a skiff that is 20 feet long can be towed by 4 large pegasi. Both occupy a 20 by 20 space. Similarly, a vessel such as a damselfly that occupies a 2x2 square at the 500-foot scale can be towed by a 100-foot-long Kandori, which is also occupying a 2x2 space at the 50-foot scale. 4 50-foot Kandori or 16 huge 15-foot scavers. So the creature increases the total length of the ship for the purposes of grappling and scuttling, but not the ship's size for determining the size of the air envelope or how long the air envelope remains fresh. So basically these creatures become the engine, but don't otherwise calculate anything about the ship. But they can also be grappled just like the ship can, following the same rules of grappling that we've already detailed in the combat chapter, like the 3rd episode. Commanding teams of beasts. So creatures towing a ship are considered crew under command of the pilot, and you can take damage for them as detailed in the ship rules section above. That jives now with the 2024 rules that while you're mounted, you can take I think you can like take a reaction. No, I think that's a feat. Take reactions, but we just make it a default as part of the command function here under the ship rules as hyperlink. Good. The creatures otherwise retain their listed statistics. While commanding creatures to tow a ship, the pilot doesn't require focus, but otherwise all rules for combat and exploration are the same as above in the previous chapters. When making pilot checks, you can make a wisdom animal handling check instead. Ships can travel between worlds at the slowest speed among the creatures towing the ship and can only turn 90 degrees with each move, which is the same as ships that are traversing water or, ships that are traversing water. They can do up to a 90-degree turn each move. So you got 5 squares of move, and you can turn 90 degrees during that movement, and then you can take the dash action to turn another 90 degrees and go back the way that you came. The towing creatures occupy less space than the ship. The extra burden causes the pilot to roll pilot checks and dexterity saving throws for the ship with disadvantage. And each creature gains 1 degree of exhaustion per 8 hours of travel. If the towing creatures occupy less space than half the size of the ship, the ship's speed is reduced to 0, and the creatures cannot tow the ship. So it's not a matter of how much weight can these creatures carry. It's a matter of what is their size relative to the other ship to be able to determine if they can pull it along in their own gravity plane. Astral travel with creatures. Creatures not native to the astral sea generally attempt to return to the system they're from, which is often not the same destination as the writer. Without a spelljamming helm to focus on the destination, each creature makes an opposed roll as detailed in the travel time. So the problem with traveling in the astral sea is if people are arguing over what your destination is while you're traveling together, there's basically a fight of wills to determine which traveler ends up setting the destination. And you won't really know until you get there. And these creatures, their instinct is to go back home. So you're making basically checks against them to see if your will is going to overwhelm the will of these creatures that you're commanding. Because they want to go home back to where they're used to being. You want to push to the astral to wherever your destination is. So you're fighting them the entire way unless you can like charm them or something. With the default destination for unusual creatures is their native system. Since any travel time is lost when changing destinations within the astral sea, teams of creatures and their passengers can be stranded for weeks this way. So mounted travel and towed ships are generally limited to the system the creatures are native to. Magically controlled creatures don't interfere with the pilot's destination, and intelligent creatures can choose to or not. So there you're covering your caveats there. And then unusual plants. Similar to unusual creatures, unusual plants exist in wild space, feeding upon the light from stars within the system or from other sources such as fire worlds. These plants don't require air, food, or drink to survive, similar to Kandori. Space plants require only light, and thus unusual herbivores can feed on these plants and provide a source of prey for space predators. And that's all there is in the Creatures Menagerie. And that did not take very long. So let's do a bonus round and dive into the random system generator just to take a look at this. So we're looking at system radius, the central star, a number of planets in the system, the size of the planets, orbiting moons, world composition, worlds of unusual composition, asteroid sizes, para-elemental compositions, air quality for the planets, visibility of the atmosphere on the planets, world temperatures, inhabitants on the world, and an example. And that's all there is to that. So just looking at this thing real quick. Below is a series of simple random tables to inspire unique systems, planets, and moons for adventure. System radius. Roll on the table below to determine the radius of the system encountered. So you roll a d12. Radius is in 100 million miles for the system. 1. If you roll a 1, there is no system. The star and planets are directly in the astral sea. Roll again, rolling 1d4 plus 1. So then it would be anywhere from 2 to 5. So it'll be inside this range is the radius in 100 million miles. So if I roll a 2 to 3, it's d4 times 100 million miles. It's the size of the system. 4 or 5 is a d6, d8, d10, d12, and then on 12, roll again using d10 plus 2, multiply results by 10. So we'd roll again, rolling using d10 plus 2, so it'll be a range of 3 to 12. So it'd be like d4 times 10 times 100, so it'd be times a billion miles. So it'd be d4 billion miles if I rolled this result. If I hit this result again, it becomes 10 billion miles in size. d4 times 10 billion miles in size, etc., etc. Central star. Roll the table below to determine the diameter of the system's central star. d8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. d10 times 100,000 miles, 1 million miles, 10 million miles, 100 million miles. The central star is a void of necrotic energy instead of radiant. Roll d4 on the table above, so now it's a dark star like in the Doomspace system and the adventures in the Lattice Aractus adventure. If I roll a 6, there is no central star. All planets are in a fixed position within the system, each with an orbiting moon of fire. Roll on the orbiting moons table to the right to determine the size of the sun orbiting each world. Or 7, there is no central star. Instead, one of the planets in the system is a fire world. Roll D3 plus 1 on the planet diameter table to the right. Or 8, there is a cluster of D4 plus 1 stars. Roll 1D4 on this table for each. So the size of the stars that are in orbit around each other. Number of planets, not including the central star, if any, to determine the number of planets and the distance between each. Roll on the table below as directed by the results of the system radius table to the left. System radius. Okay, so if it's up to 400 million miles in size, right, you'll have up to 2 planets that are D4 times 50 miles apart, because the system is only going to be up to 400 million miles in size. So up to 400 million miles in size, we can't have a lot of planets, and they're going to be close together. And then it continues to scale up, D3, D4, D6, D8, and then for each times 10 multiplier plus D4, D4 times 200 mile radius. Planet diameter, roll on the table below to determine the size. Again, the minimum size for a planet to have spherical gravity, as we described above already, is it has to be at least 10 miles in size. So that is the minimum requirement for a planet's diameter. Here you see a D8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Could be up to 100,000 miles in size. Earth, for example, is a D10 times 1,000 miles, as is Toril, Orth, Kryn. All the normal planets are typically anywhere from like 6,000 to 10,000 miles in size, occupying a 10,000 mile space. For example, rolling a D8 that results in a 5 indicates a planet D10 times 1,000 miles in diameter. Rolling a subsequent D10 that results in an 8 indicates a world 8,000 miles in diameter. There you go. Orbiting moons to determine the number of moons and the diameter of each and the distance each moon orbits the planet. Roll on the table below as directed by the results from the planet diameter table above. So here we're seeing the size, planet diameter. There we go. So it could be anywhere up to 100 miles, 1,000 miles, 10,000 miles, 100,000 miles. Diameter result was a 2. Number of moons is D4. Moon diameter is to determine the number of moons, the diameter of planet, diameter results. So if it's 10 miles or less, it can't have an effective moon. At best, it could have like some asteroids floating around it. So it has to be at least 100 miles in size to be able to have a moon at all. So diameter results is a 2. Corresponding here, a 3 or a 5 can have more moons. D4 minus 2 means at best 2 moons, at best 4 moons. D4 moons, D6 moons. Here's your moon diameters. So you can see the moon diameters are going to be smaller in general than the planet's diameter. Distance between each moon is going to be small enough to be able to pull an orbit D10 times 1,000 miles up to 8,000 miles away. Up to 160,000 miles away. There we go. World composition. Roll on the table below to determine the primary element of each planet or moon. 1 to 2, air, earth, fire, water, or unusual composition. So roll D4 on the table below for unusual compositions, right? So D4, 1, paraelemental composition. Instead of a world composed of one of the 4 basic elements, it's composed of a paraelement. Roll on the paraelemental composition table to the right. 2, a ring of moons. Instead of one world, the number of moons rolled above are equidistant from each other in a shared orbit, minimum of 2. Roll D10 for each moon on the air quality and visibility tables. Air quality and visibility. There we go. Cloud cluster. Instead of one world, it's an air world with the moons clustered within the same planetary atmosphere. Roll 1d8 on the air quality and d10 on the visibility tables below for the entire cluster. Or it's an asteroid belt. Instead of being a world, It's a scattered field of asteroids in a shared orbit around the central star. Roll d4 on the table below. Asteroid size 1, 2, 3, 4. Up to 50 feet, up to 500 feet, up to 5,000 feet, which is a mile, or up to 10 miles in size, which can then have their own gravity if they get to the maximum size. Or their own spherical gravity at the maximum size. Paralemental options: magma, ooze, ice, and smoke, each with their own modified air quality and visibility tables. So looking at air quality for each planet and moon, roll on the air quality, visibility, and world temperature tables below. So air quality, to determine the air quality of a world, roll on the table below as directed on the type of world. So air world, here's our air quality. It's a D12. 1 to 5 is fresh air, 6 to 8 is foul air, 9 to 11 is deadly air, and then 12 there's no atmosphere at all. By default, the quality of air and water for creatures native to the world are considered fresh. Air worlds will roll up to D10, which means it's an air world, and obviously it has an atmosphere because it's air. Earth worlds don't necessarily have to have an atmosphere, but most likely will. Fire worlds roll D6 plus 4. So that's going to be a minimum of 5. So it's possible to have fresh air in a fire world, but more than likely it's going to be somewhere between foul and deadly. And of course, it has to have an atmosphere. Otherwise, the fire would go out. So that's why you can only get up to 10 on the air quality field. But most likely it's sooty and ashy and hard to breathe. So most of the time it's going to end up being foul. This applies to the air surrounding... Water world, roll a D12. And this applies to the air surrounding the water. Roll a D10 to determine the quality of water for aquatic life. So it could be fresh. It could be considered fresh for aquatic creatures, foul, or deadly. Visibility. To determine the general visibility of a world, roll on the table below. Air worlds, roll a D10. So we can see up here in the paralemental table, like roll D6 plus 5 for the air quality in a magma world. So D6 plus 5 is going to get us anywhere from 6 to 11. So magma is also going to have foul and deadly air, right? A magma world's visibility is going to be D4 plus 6. So it's going to be anywhere from 7 to 10. So visibility is going to be reduced by 10 or a factor of 100. That's because there's so much grit in the air, it's difficult to see. So to determine the general visibility of a world, roll on the table above as directed on the type of world. Visibility is unhindered. Visibility is reduced by a factor of 10. Visibility, for example, if a world is made of fire, roll D4 plus 6. A result of 8 indicates the distance at which you can notice objects with the naked eye is reduced by a factor of 10, such as noticing a 50-foot craft within 1 mile instead of 10 miles, because we have the visibility table above in the exploration section. Hold on. Yeah, exploration. Here's our visibility tables. Here's our notice range, which is basically naked eye type stuff. So if you're 50 feet in size, you can normally notice something within 10 miles if you make a DC 19 check. But with the decreased visibility, you wouldn't be able to notice something of 50 feet in size unless it's within 1 mile. Let's go back down to our random system generator. Number of planets, scroll down. Yeah, unhindered, reduced by 10 or reduced by 100. And world temperatures, to determine the general temperature of a world, roll on the temperature table to the right as directed, corresponding to the distance the world is from the nearest star as listed below. Distance from if the distance from the source is up to 200 million miles, roll a D4, D6, blah blah blah. So on a scale of 1, if you hit a 1, it has unnatural heat. Each creature takes D6 fire damage per minute unless it has resistance to the fire damage. 2 or 3 is extreme heat. See chapter 5 of the DMG. Basically, it causes degrees of exhaustion. Actually, good point. Extreme heat. Let's see if the new DMG has anything mentioned about extreme temperatures. Let's look at. Suffocation, stun, sphere, speed. Magic, magical heat, light influence, indifferential, immunity, hover, hit points, high jump, help, healing. Damage thresholds, damage rolls, cylinders, cubes, critical hit, charmed, burning doesn't count. Huh. Okay, let's go to the, maybe check the player's handbook. Maybe weather? Huh. Okay, so the player's handbook doesn't have anything. Let's go to the DMG, and let's see if there's anything in there. DM's toolbox. Looking for environmental effects. Ah, here we go. Extreme cold. When the temperature is 0 degrees Fahrenheit or lower, a creature exposed to extreme cold must succeed a DC 10 Constitution saving throw at the end of each hour or gain 1 degree of exhaustion. Extreme heat. And it's now chapter 3, so that changed. Page 80 right. Page 80R. See chapter 3 of the DMG. That changed. By default, worlds made of fire and magma are unusually hot, while worlds made of ice are unnaturally cold. There's a 75% chance worlds made of fire and magma are inhospitable instead. Inhospitable worlds. So, worlds of fire and magma deal 10d6 fire damage at the end of each round to creatures and objects occupying adjacent squares of the same scale to these worlds in wild space, and 20d6 to those occupying the same square. For example, a fire world that occupies a 1,000,000 miles square deals 10d6 fire damage to anything within 1,000,000 miles. And 20d6 to anything within the same 1,000,000 mile square space occupied by the world. There you go. Inhabitants. To determine the inhabitants of a world, roll on the table below and include all results equal to and less than the number all of the results equal to and less than the number rolled. So it's a d20. 1 to 4. This world has no native creatures, but there is a small population of non-native creatures. Roll d8 plus 10 on a table. So it's going to be anywhere from 11 to 18. So it'll be humanoids. So here's our stacking order, right? Plants is the lowest form of life. And then we have beasts above that. And then we have humanoids. So that makes beasts, plants, and humanoids. That's like a normal, generic, modern-day, mundane Earth. And then we start adding in monstrosities, which Earth might have monstrosities like Yetis or Chupacabra, stuff like that. They might exist in our world. So Earth, like real world Earth, could be a 13 or 14. It's probably actually just an 11 or 12. But once you get past monstrosities, you get into aberrations, which is like, you know what an aberration is, like Cthulhu stuff, like a Lithid, beholders, stuff like that. Unnatural creatures that we definitely have no evidence exist on our planet. Elemental creatures are another step removed from normal creatures. That becomes more and more fantastical as we move up in scale. So elementals, then we get into fae, and then we have undead naturally occurring on this world. Or on 19, so the scale is 11 to 18. So we'll have, if the world supports humanoids, it's also going to have beasts and plants. And once you get into monstrosities, it starts stacking up, and that 18 is your maximum type. So these are basically, I mean, you could have dragons in here someplace, but they don't need to stand out as their own thing. Maybe I should change this to monstrosities and dragons. Nah, I'm going to leave them off the table on purpose. You could always add dragons if you want. I think I can stand behind that. If we added dragons to the table, ooh, you know, actually we could probably put like monstrosities and oozes, and then aberrations and dragons. I think that would probably work. Let's do that. This is what, page 90? 81. Let's do that. $81 left. Page 81 left. Monstrosities and oozes. Aberrations and dragons. There, let's do that. And Fae stands alone. Elementals is fine. Fae is fine. Undead is fine. That's all fine. Plants. This result indicates plant creatures specifically. A result of 13 or less includes 13 or less includes monstrosity and oozes. So a result of 13 or less includes plant food suitable for grazing and cultivating by native creatures unless noted otherwise. And then 2 asterisk, which we have here, roll D8 plus 10 on the table below. On this table, ignoring results below 11. Well, yeah, you would automatically ignore results. Oh, I see. Ignoring results below 11. So if like 11 to 18, we'd have humanoids, monstrosities, these creatures, but we wouldn't have beasts and plants. So this result indicates plant food doesn't naturally grow in this world, but may have scarce amounts present. Got it. So it doesn't naturally hold plant and beast creatures. Example, rolling a 12 indicates creatures that are plants, beasts, and humanoids. Other types of creatures may exist in the world, but are very rarely encountered. Rolling a 20, roll D6 plus 12 on the table, so it's going to be 13 to 18. So that'll be monstrosities, aberrations, elementals, fae, undead. Result of 20 rolls D6 plus 12, so a result of 16 then means that the creatures of the world are monstrosities, aberrations, and elementals without any plant life. An earth world could be populated by Zorn and other earth elemental creatures alongside monstrosities and aberrations that have adapted unusual natures to survive the environment. Once the composition, temperature, and inhabitants of the world are determined, the DM can choose what environments exist on the world for the inhabitants to survive. For example, in Realm Space, the closest planet to the sun is Anadia, an Earth world with unnaturally hot temperatures inhabited by plants, beasts, halflings, and umber hulks. The planet is dominated by deadly desert and lava fields due to its proximity to the sun, but it has habitable zones at the north and south equators where lakes, rivers, forests, and plains provide sustenance for the inhabitants that thrive there. There you go. And then converting Light of Xeraxis. We've done a complete conversion guide for the Light of Xeraxis adventure to utilize all of these mechanics throughout the book. The Neogi attack, the Ebon Snare, becomes a dungeon map at the 500-foot scale for creatures to navigate through. These points here are pilot checks that you need to open the door to go from this area to this area. If you fail the roll, you'll take damage from asteroids colliding into each other in close proximity here. Ships that are like fighter craft that are smaller than 50 feet in size. Since this is a 500-foot square, this is probably like 15 feet wide right here. So fighter craft can squeeze their way through these spaces as difficult terrain and basically ignore these blocks, while larger vessels operating at the 500-foot scale have to move around them. B is where the Ebon Snare is located at the beginning of the encounter. A is where the Spiderling fighter craft are located. 1 is where your ship starts next to the Illithid Nautiloid derelict that you explored in the previous chapter. So while you're trying to escape, your goal is to get out. And you can get out here at point 2, or you can get out here at point 3. Both of these are decent. You have to start here and end here or here while being chased by the spiraling fighter craft that are located here. And eventually the Ebon Snare, communicating with the fighter craft, will attempt to pincer or close in on the characters. And depending if you're able to survive long enough to get out of this asteroid dungeon, then you connect with the patrol ships that are described in the next chapter as showing up. You can then turn around and form a fleet with them. Here's the fighter craft. Here's the Ebon Snare. Here's the slaves that are the crew. Here's the commanding Yogi that are aboard each ship. On the fighter craft, and the Ebon Snare has Umber Hulks as well as the Yogi and their slaves. And if to the rescue, there you go. So replacement text blurb and Space Galleon. And hey, what's up, Dragon? Hello, well met. Well met to you, sir. Thank you kindly for being here. Or we're basically just looking through the Spelljammer Combat and Exploration book that I built. I built it for 2014. A year or so ago, and now that the 2024 rules are out and I've DM'd it for a number of months, I feel confident in being able to make our changelog. So, and again, anyone that wants to access this stuff, here is the document on DMsGuild with a free preview if you want to read it. And the subclasses, this is the document that we're using to add our changelog. It also happens to have 13 unique subclasses that are being crafted here. These aren't the final versions. These are just concepts that we're building that we'll eventually build out into an actual PDF document that we'll publish on the DMsGuild as well. But these are our initial ideas that they're still going through changes, and we need to get them edited and then do the page layouts and the artwork. But once we do, we'll be able to add it to the Spelljammer book as a bundle. And if you're interested in this stuff, you're welcome to join my Discord community. If you don't want to buy the books, you could always just chip in $1 each month on Patreon. God bless you if you do. And Twitter and blah, blah, blah. So here's a bunch of other books that I've done. My Discord server is where I do all my playtesting. So you're welcome to participate if you want, or fire up your own game using my content and have me available for technical support and guidance as needed on my Discord. I'm really happy with. I've already gone through the Light of Xeraxis adventure. I'm pretty happy with it. I don't think there's any changes that actually need to be made. But yeah, once you get away from the Lithid and escape the asteroid field, and you connect with the Space Galleon, you on the Moon Dancer can then hang out with the 2 patrol ships. So now there's 3 galleons versus the Ebon Snare Spider, which is a 4x4 craft. Versus these 3x3. This is a total of 9 squares of space. This is 4 squares of space plus however many fighter craft survive. So each fighter craft is considered 1 50-foot space. So 1, 2, 3 plus 4. That's 7 versus 9 here. So, but it's expected by the time you get here, your ship has probably had its ass kicked. So it'll end up being a fair fight. Like if all 3 fighter craft have survived with the Ebon Snare, by the time you connect with the patrols, you can turn around and it'll probably be a fair fight. Because your ship is going to be damaged, and these 2 are coming in fresh. Using the fleet mechanics that we provide in the combat chapter above, you can now have a run and gun combat with your squadron in the 500-foot square, chasing after the Ebon Snare, trying to find a way to escape. If you can defeat the Ebon Snare, there's a bunch of prisoners on board. If the characters succeed, the Ebon Snare is a known pirate slaver ship. The captives aboard are thankful to be rescued, and there's a 10,000 gold piece bounty for the ship's capture. The officer on the patrol offers to escort the Moon Dancer to the Rock of Brawl to collect the bounty while towing the Ebon Snare, claiming the ship as salvage on behalf of the Brawl Navy. Captain Sartell takes 8,000 gold for maintaining the ship and repairs, leaving the 2,000 gold pieces for the characters to divide among themselves. Proceed to the next section. Welcome to the Rock. And if you're familiar with the Light of Xeraxis adventure already, you know that you need 2,000 gold to hire the Second Wind, the next ship that you board to continue on in the adventure. So by defeating the Ebon Snare, you're automatically given the gold that you need to be able to continue the adventure. And then here's the crew. Here's the second wind. We have it statted out here for you. Starbow is the Trent that's basically merged into making the ship a living ship. It acts as a catapult, or rather, it has the strength of a trebuchet. So, but it can also engage in melee combat against creatures at the 5-foot scale if you want. Here's your crew. Here's your pilot. Here's your commander. The 2 jolly boats that'll come in handy later on. They can act as fighter craft to help out in combat with the living with the second wind. The second wind itself isn't very powerful, but if your team uses the fighter craft, the skiffs that are accompanying you now have means of being able to engage in more combat. You can potentially even take weapons from the even snare and equip them on the living on the second breath if you want to. Second wind if you want to buff it up, or like add a trebuchet to the back of this, a ballista if you wanted to on this one. Rigger attack. We just looked at the Rigger up above. It's a 30-foot, basically a living fighter craft. At the 30-foot, it's 30 feet in size. The Stain, his twin. It's mirrored their image there, so they look the same. Living on the Edge. This is where we get the Topola. There we go. And then we turned Topola's tower into an asteroid field. It used to be a dwarven citadel that has been shattered, and now Topola uses it as a research area. But there's a scaver. Oh, the Big Mama is the scaver that is terrorizing Topola's tower. So she asks the team to take care of Big Mama while she does research using her observatory. What's the word I want to use? Facility, the observatory facility in her bastion located at point 1, and then these 5 other points are, all 6 of these points are where the scabbard goes to hunt. And so each point on the map is a different location that Big Mama is interested in. Point 1 is Topola's tower itself. There's a space eel colony over here in point 2. She's taking damage from trying to eat the eels. There's an abandoned nest where there used to be pelicans that have all been eaten by the scavengers, so it's empty now. The Dwarven facade. This is the obvious face of the Dwarven citadel that was shattered and is just a cluster of asteroids. If Big Mama is found here, she regurgitates the remains of a dwarven skeleton in a fish suit that still functions. Stone carving tools are drifting along the rock's gravity plane. Topola says she's never seen anyone exploring the strange rock if asked. Then there's unusual lichen, and then there's a slumber rock. For unknown reasons, scavengers like to drift next to this large rock while sleeping. If Big Mama is found here, there's a 50% chance she's asleep. So there's the slumber rock. So fun little, you just roll a d6 to see what Big Mama is interested in. And if the characters arrive with Kandori and have kept them hatched to Topola's tower, the scavenger instead visits every d4 hours. If Big Mama doesn't see any humanoid creatures, it attacks the Kandori at location 1 instead of visiting a random location. If there are no Kandori present or the characters otherwise chase the scavenger away from location 1, Big Mama visits 1d4 random locations as listed above for 1 minute each, searching for food before leaving the field to hunt elsewhere, returning later as detailed above. So then you can fight Big Mama. You can use the when we were playtesting this, they used the fightercraft skiff to chase Big Mama around the asteroid field, so that both Big Mama and the characters were operating at the 50. This map is at the 50-foot scale, so Big Mama would occupy a square, and then each craft that they were piloting could occupy a square, so they can just basically run around, dodge, and play throughout this asteroid field, basically doing running gun and range combat and trying to avoid Big Mama. The fighter craft, the skiffs, give you extra hit points and cover against Big Mama from just snatching you off a ship and running away. Because at 5th level, actually sixth level at this point, it's very possible for Big Mama just to flat out just kill your character and one-shot them. So being on the fighter craft gives you protection from just getting one shot, because Big Mama is going to attack the ship until she realizes there's characters aboard. Then they can start attacking them. So the characters have a chance to deal damage to force Big Mama to run away. And then they can chase her down with siege weapons if needed, just to finish her off. And there's Garganhale's fleet. Ship of the Dead. There's Garganhale. There's the Last Breath. The ships that are aboard. The mutinous crew. Agony, the ghost that possesses the ship. The ogre zombie. This is just a bunch of crew. And then, of course, Princess Zendela is captive aboard the Last Breath, and that's when you start forming alliance with them and start heading to Zaraxus. You spend time in Doom Space to hang out. What's it called? I can't remember the name of it. Hold on. Princess Adala, that's what see, Garganhale's fleet, once in that, determined it's going to come to Pacts, after arrival in space. Arun, Warwick, blah, blah, blah. The characters succeed on the moon. Doom Space. Wild Space System, Doom Space. That takes us to Vokath. Thank you, Vokath. And then here's Vokath's base, which conveniently fits inside of a 500-foot square. Here's all the ships that are docked around it, and if you have Prince Zeleth show up with his fleet of Star Moths, then they will flank around. We've actually been building a fleet battle for the Coalition to gather together and have their ships with Vokath's station fight against the 12 Star Moths that Zeleth shows up in, to be a fleet battle as a precursor for you actually assembling your fleet with all the faction allies to then form up your fleet, go to Zaraxus using the fleet mechanics that we have, depending on how many squadrons of ships you've gathered up for your fleet, represented by A, B, C, D, E, F, right? And so we have Squadron A, Squadron B, Squadron C, Squadron D, Squadron E, and then the characters will be in Squadron F. Versus the Star Moths, which are Zaraxus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And they are tight squadrons of 4 ships each. So there's a total of 32 Star Moths. And then you also have actually defending the Zaraxus base, the Citadel of Light. We have 8 squadrons of Warbirds. Looking at the math of the Warbirds. 1 second. Final approach. Here there be dragons. Citadel overview. So here's the Citadel with its different locations. Trebuchet towers, siege towers. Here's the Warbird defenders. So each squadron above here, 1 through 8, there's 8 squadrons of Warbirds defending the Citadel. Each squadron of Warbirds has 5 ships in them. Here, each Warbird is 50 feet in size, so that's roughly the squadron. Here's your squadron mechanics for the fleet battle. 8 second rank squadrons in tight formation. W1 through W8. 5 Warbirds per 500-foot square. Warbirds are 1 by 1 square each at the 50-foot scale. They each have 100 hit points, damage reduction of 10, 15 armor class. They deal 5. This squadron of 5 Warbirds, when attacking together, deal 5d6 times 10 siege damage. Reloading on 3. Suggested actions: the Warbirds remain within the 1 mile space occupied by the Citadel. When an ally attacks, the nearest Warbird squadron uses a reaction to intercept the attack, taking the damage for the Citadel. Each squadron can intercept once, retreating to the Imperial Docks topside area 2 for repairs. And then there's the actual Radiant Citadel itself, which has basically a radiant lightning bolt that it can fire from it. Starbeam, area of effect, a line 2 miles long, 500 feet wide. Damages is D10 times 100 damage, recharges on a 6 of a D6. Ship pilots and squadron commanders succeeding a DC 15 dexterity saving throw take half damage. The Citadel alerts the Zaraxian squadrons any round the star beam fires. When it does, the Starmoth squadrons use their reactions to move out of the beam's area of effect before taking damage. If the Allied fleet attacks the crystal or temple within 1 mile of the Citadel, it's evident that non-magical weapons deal no damage. There you go. And then crowning moment, messing around with the NPCs as written in the adventure. There's no fleet combat there, so it doesn't matter. Garganhale's Gambit is to sneak the characters aboard by using his invisibility option on his ship while the rest of the fleet attacks the moths. So you can sneak onto the base, onto the underside here where you're not noticed, cross through the forest, go to the edge of the Star Moth, bounce gravity up to the top side, run through the city here to the fortress, and there's the Citadel of Light. So you want to drop down over to here and get to the Citadel. There you go. Bob's your uncle. There's trebuchet towers everywhere that there's a trebuchet symbol like this. These are trebuchet towers that defend the Citadel. There's 3 trebuchets on each tower, so it deals as a combined, as a silo attack. It deals D8 times 3d8 times 10, but it has a reload score of 15. So it's gonna take a lot to reload. You're gonna have to spend action economy to reload each of them, but the opening silo is strong. And then we have the defensive tower has 1,000 points of damage with damage reduction of 20. Armor class is 18. The trebuchets get partial cover from that. So you have to use siege weapons against these, but it's at disadvantage as per the rules of engagement in Siege Up Above. And that's the end of the adventure. And that's the end of the book. So didn't have a lot to go. We're at about an hour now. Not bad. So now that we have all the updates that we actually need to the book, we can now start compiling these revisions and then add them to the actual document here, update it to 2024 rules, and then reload it onto the DMsGuild here. And I anticipate working on that this weekend. It's very possible I'll have it done maybe on Saturday, possibly on Monday. That's going to be my big Saturday task, and if I don't get it done on the week, I'll get it done soon enough. It's my next small little project. It's probably going to take me like maybe 4 hours to do it, so it's possible for me to be able to knock that out this Saturday after we do Mega Dungeon playtesting using the Martial Power system. But that's essentially it for today. So I'm going to go ahead and bounce out of here and probably get started on working on this. And check out the book. It's got 120 different maps, tokens, and other assets that you can use. The entire book is a full preview here that you can click on and look at the entire 107 pages of the book if you want. It has all the hyperlinks active in the document that we were looking at. So go ahead and enjoy that. If you want to support me on Patreon instead of buying the book, that link is down here under Patreon here. Bless you if you want to help support me in doing this stuff. We've got more books on the way. We're going to build the subclasses book using all the unique mechanics in the Spelljammer Combat Exploration document to create new unique Spelljammer subclasses. I'm in particular favor of the Paladin, the Oath of Salvage. Here's your tenets for the Oath of Salvage. Though intentions may vary, Paladins of this oath follow these tenets. So the Law of Salvage, uphold the Law of Salvage, which is finders keepers. Light in the dark, always respond to a call for help, and then leave no one behind. Never leave someone to die in space. These are the tenets of the Oath of Salvage. You could like the Nyogi that we were finding. They could follow the Oath of Salvage if they wanted to. Leave no one behind. They enslave everyone. Always respond to a call for help. There's always opportunity for plunder. So of course they're going to respond to a call of help. And then finders keepers, they live by that law, obviously. Hey, what's up, Dragon? What wizard subclass do you have for that? Oh, let's go down and take a look. Again, this book, it's in development right now, so you can read it. And here is the subclasses document right here. But let's go down and take a look. Arcane Shipwright. Here's your spells: Mending, Message, Comprehend Language, Unseen Servant, Heat Metal. Heat Metal is nasty against ships. If you increase the scale of Heat Metal to the 50-foot scale, or like 500-foot scale, like for a Scorpion ship that's made of metal, you could basically heat the entire fucking ship and cook everybody inside of it. Keep that in mind. Glyph of Warding is awesome to put on your ship. There tends to be a lot of downtime to be able to between adventures and between encounters and stuff while you're in wild space. So you have time to lay down Glyphs of Warding onto your ship. Protection of Elements makes sense. Fabricate for repair. Liamon's Secret Chest, just for the lulz. Creation for repair and rebuilding your ship. And then Telekinesis is just to push things around. Arcane Toolkit, you gain proficiency with blacksmith tools, carpenter tools, and tinker tools. As a magic action, you can create one of these tools that disappears when you let them go. So you can just create tools as you need, kind of like an amped artificer effect. Potent Repair at 3rd level. When you use the Mending cantrip as a ritual to repair a ship, you repair 8 plus your intelligence modifier when rolling dice to repair a ship with magic instead of rolling dice. The result is always the highest result. So you always maximize the repair die that you use for spending spell slots. Right on, man. I'm glad you think it's cool. Thanks. Shipwright Glyphs, 6th level. When you cast the Glyph of Warding spell and place the glyph on a ship or a siege weapon, you can use a spell slot to store an upcast version of the Mending cantrip into the glyph, up to your maximum spell level, even if it exceeds level 3. When you use the magic action to trigger the ward, the spell targets the ship or siege weapon the glyph is placed on. And again, we have the ability to maximize the result of that die roll. If you amplify the Glyph of Warding when you cast it, you can forgo the material components if you place a Mending spell into it. But you are limited to one glyph this way per 50-foot space of the ship or weapon occupies. At 10th level, you get Reactive Repair. When focusing on a spell amplifier mounted to a ship, when your ship takes damage, you can use your reaction to cast a repair spell from your bonus spell list, which could be Mending, Fabricate, or Creation. So you won't have access to these until 14th level and 17th. That's not right. Level 7 and 9. So you'll have access to Fabricate, Creation, and Mending. And you can just cast those as a reaction to your ship taking damage. It's expensive, but it's a really good way to keep your ship from being destroyed. And then Create Material. When you cast Creation to maintain maintain concentration for at least 1 hour while performing repairs, the material created from the spell is permanent. You don't choose the type of material when casting a spell this way. Instead, it replicates the material the ship is already constructed from, and if the material is stripped from the ship, it immediately disappears, dealing 5d8 necrotic damage to the ship for each attempt. Cantrip is Mending, and we're making changes to it. But if we go down to let's go to spellcasting because it's at the end. We'll look at magical repairs. So ships and weapons can be repaired when casting modified versions of the following spells. Mending. Concentration's 8-hour casting time. Requires ship materials as detailed in the Spelljamming Ship section above for repairs. Ranges touch. Target ship up to 500 feet in length or one siege weapon. When a spell slot is spent to upcast this cantrip, repair the following amount of damage. So if it's a first level spell slot, you repair D4 damage. If it's a 9th level spell slot, it's 8d12. And again, this subclass that we're looking at, the Mage Right, heals maximum damage. So it'd be 8 points for a 3rd level spell slot, 10 for a 4th level spell slot. I think we upgraded that. Hold on, let's go down. This is what, page 47? Repairs all damage on a ship up to 500 feet in length. Using a wish this way is the same as instant health. I need to increase this. That's not good numbers anymore. Let's see. The numbers are good for let's see. We want to go with it's a cantrip, but it's costing spell slots. So hold on, I want to fix this. 47. Page 47 R. Gonna go with cantrip. 8 hours. Mending 8 hours. Cantrip equals 1d4. Slot. Damage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It should be using normal D&D damage now. So 3d8, 4d8, 5d8, 6d8, 7d8, 9d8, 10d8, 11d8. 88. This goes 96. That's a decent adjustment. But I think that's good overall change. So as a cantrip, it's only D4 hit points healed for every 8 hours. But when you start spending spell slots, it'll start repairing. Just using the mending spell, it'll just start doing the same repair rate as a heal spell would. But you have to spend spell slots to do it. Let's look at fabricate. Fabricate. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Level. Repair. It'd be 5d8 here, so yeah, this is underwhelming. Let's do 4d12, 5d12, 6d12, 7d12, 8d12, 9d12. There you go. And now let's go down to the spell casting chapter and look at creation. It's a 5th level spell. Oh, fabricate, yeah, and creation. You can create any object up to 50 feet in size for each level of spell slot spent, up to 250 with 5th foot. The material the ship is created from determining the duration of the spell below. There you go. Okay. So fabricate and mending are the two main uses, are the two main means of repair. Mending is easy for anyone to get. All you have to really do is take the Magic Initiate to get a mending spell. That also gives you a 1st level spell slot that you can then spend to do at least the 2d8 repair. And then you can just hack it. Like everyone on your crew could have the mending spell if they have the spacer background. So if you have like a Star Moth occupies a 4x4 space, right? That means you can have 4 people every 8 hours repairing D4 damage each. Total 4d4 damage up to, like, on average it'll be 10 damage that is repaired for every 8 hours on average. The ship has 400 hit points, so it'd take 320 hours of repair using a basic mending spell if you have at least 4 people running repairs on it every 8 hours, which is a lot faster than the dockyard. The dockyard takes a number of days as well, but 400. Ooh, wait a second. D4 is going to be average of 10, 40. That's 40, 10. 30 hours per day if you're working around the clock. it would take 11 days for you to repair with magic in space with nothing but mending spells. Compare that to repairs in docks. A dockyard. If you were, like, say, in a Rock of Brawl is a city, and it's a large enough population that you could hire 4 crew that were capable of doing 9 points of repair. 4 crew times 9 is 36 hit points per day. Is basically you would be repairing. So if you go to Rock of Brawl, they could repair it in 10 days, and you don't have to be there, but you could repair it in wild space over the course of 10 days. So if your destination is, say, 30 days away, as long as you're your Star Moth is only encountering 1 deadly encounter every 3 days, you can repair yourself to the point where you're going to be ready for your next fight. If you have multiple characters capable of casting magic, like a ranger and a paladin and a cleric and a druid, and you all pick up mending with a spacer background or with the magic initiate feat, you can now start dumping shitloads of mana into repairing your ship more quickly. One thing I long for is a book of Spelljammer sea shanties. Nice. Thanks for asking me this, because I needed to fix this and I hadn't. So this is where we're at. When I was going through the book, I would eventually get back to here, but since you brought it up, you got to take care of it early. So yeah, that is the what is that? The subclass of Arcane Shipwright. There you go. So it's very focused on operating a ship. If you are running a Spelljammer campaign with lots of ship combat, if you're taking any of these subclasses. But again, once the Mecha Kaiju book is published, all of those mecha that your characters are piloting, like 30-foot Gundams or whatever, they're all considered spelljamming ships. So all these subclasses would apply to your character running around in a brute suit, fighting giant creatures, which is a campaign I'm really looking forward to running on my Discord server. I'm going to convert Storm King's Thunder into a Spelljammer game where instead of a flying castle, it becomes a dwarven citadel with a mecha bay, like a hangar bay for mecha and repair work and upgrading your mecha and stuff like that, where you're using the Bastion system that we created and treating an asteroid community as the different communities that you have to protect, kind of XCOM 2 style, from being attacked by mega kaiju from wild space or the astral sea. And so your job is to, in a dwarven citadel, fly around and drive away these kaiju. Smaller creatures, you open up your hangar bay and then head out in mecha ships to go fight them, at the 50-foot scale in mecha suits. If they're huge, like massive scale, 500-foot scale creatures, like a 1,500-foot space kraken, then the dwarven citadel itself, with its bombards and trebuchet, will be attacking the mega kaiju, while maybe your characters are running around in your mech suits, like trying to find soft spots and do boss fight soft points or whatever, or just defending the communities from accidentally getting smashed by the kaiju. But that'll be, I suspect we'll be firing up that campaign in January. So it'll be a few months away. I'll probably end up spending time here on Mondays and Thursday nights developing the asteroid communities, the dwarven citadel, the mecha that the characters are going to have access to, the facilities in the dwarven citadel. Yeah, that's the plan. Only have one spell. Oh, that's funny. Right on. So that's it. Stump pilot, fun stuff. Ranger, the Void Hunter, Oath of Salvage I talked about already. I think that one's super cool. Way of the Empty Ship is your monk bonding with the ship and using your monk-like abilities to empower your ship with ki. Generic fighter pilot for the fighter basically gets battle master maneuvers to use in your ships or your mecha. Circle of Melding Heart for your druid to wild shape, using wild shape, uses of wild shape to modify the ship that your druid is piloting. And again, you can have multiple ships in your own mecha, so your druid can wild shape your mecha into different shapes. Or if your druid is like a pilot or a co-pilot for your vessel that the whole team is on, you can use the druid wild shaping ability to help protect the ship and modify it for combat. A lot of fun options with this. So these aren't the final rules, of course. The DMsGuild doesn't let me actually give you free content. It has to be on the DMsGuild, but this is just a work in progress. It's going to go through editing and modifications before we actually publish it. I anticipate us working on this, probably working on this some more, maybe as early this and the Mecha Kaiju books. I think that's what we're going to be focusing on starting on Monday night. And so that's my plan. I think for now is to continue working on these to get them to a place where we can get an editor involved and start fixing them to prepare for page layouts, for us to be able to potentially roll into these things and start building them out as products. Of course, we'll do all the artwork on Monday through Friday in the morning, like we do our Eberron right now. We'll replace the Eberron art with Spelljammer art once we complete the Eberron book. And once we get these guys up to speed and get them into the editing process, then we'll be able to have our Monday and Thursday night streams like this. Instead of updating the Spelljammer book for 2024, we'll be updating the Color Mana book. That and the spell point Warlocks, universal spell points, color mana spell point, variant rules, Knights and Tricksters, Elemental Key, and we'll be updating all those books for all the 2024 rules that we've been working on basically for the past year. So things are starting to collapse together and getting improved. But I'm going to go ahead and cut stream. Hey, what's up? After all, most of the knowledge of books they play into the tropes. My character's a silly kitty wizard. 100% would learn is right on. Yeah, that's it for now, guys. I'm going to go ahead and kick out of here. If you think this stuff is fun, we do game design on Mondays and Thursday nights like this. Monday through Friday in the mornings, we do artwork for the books that we're building. If you want to check my my playlists on my channel, you'll see the Spelljammer Combat Exploration production streams. And we had basically, I think, like around 200 episodes of artwork of us just basically building all the tokens, all the background art, all the illustrations that we have in here. We did all this art online, on stream here. And that's what I do. We build a book. We go through the concepts like we're doing right now. Like with the subclasses, we go through the concepts. We build out the concepts. And then I go offline and do page layouts and get through the editing process with people. And then once the layouts and the editing is done, we have the gaps in the page, like here we have gaps here for maps and illustrations and diagrams and stuff for the ships, right? And then we have like a gap down here, so we made some wild space, phlogiston, astral sea looking type stuff down here. Like here's another gap, so we made some Neogi. Spiderling fighter craft, basically skulking in a space galleon in the distance. We already know from the diagrams above, these ships are 40 feet in size, and that galleon's 120 feet in size, so we have some asteroids in between the two of them to help demonstrate distance. But we did all these illustrations in Monday through Fridays in the mornings in 2024 last year. So if you're interested in that, you can dive into my channel here if you want to. Click on Phil Kearney. And you can go to playlists, and you can go down to, those are game mechanics. Here's our campaign, Spelljammer campaign development. Spelljammer Combat Exploration production. And we've got, let's see, let's go down to a whole bunch of stuff we were working on. We'll get through all the tokens. And then we'll get into building ships, our maps that we made for the different space dungeons that we created, like the asteroid field dungeons. Let's go down to, say, here we go.
Hey, folks, we are going to... Nice.
Oh, yeah. No, this was us creating some of the spellcasting art. Let's go to the next episode and see where we land. But I talk about this stuff for hours and hours and hours, just talking about the mechanics of the game and the ideas that we had with it, and doing the artwork to these books is just an opportunity for me to basically kick through these books. Let's skip ahead another one.
Hey folks, we're on a little.
Oh my god, that sounds so horrible. My production quality of these streams has improved. Here we go, making a manta ray. This is a spellcasting chapter here. Yeah, so we basically go through all the production of all the books. You are welcome to check this stuff out. If you think that's interesting, just, you know, you can just tag along, see what it is that we're doing here.
That's the roots of it.
Anyway, that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut on out of here, guys. Thanks, everyone, for checking this stuff out. I really appreciate it. And channel content. Let's move forward with this. Get back to where we once were. There we go. Back on task. Here we are. So yeah, that's it. I'm going to go ahead and kick out of here. I'm going to be back tomorrow morning. We're going to continue working on the Manifest Zone cemetery map with Enrico the NPC hiding from Emerald Claw Zealots patrols. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Thanks a lot for checking this stuff out. Cheers.